back to the Rumble and Popular Opinions. It has been a while. Basically a while. Why is that? Because I went back to in-person university. Or rather, went for the first time in 2 years. So, that took a while, and now I have the will to live again, even though exam month is coming up. But there's this little period of time in between where I have the will to live. So, I thought I would do a wrap-up for April and May, because I was going to do one for April, but pretty much all I did were rereads. Because I was not in a mental headspace to actually bother with anything potentially crap. So I kind of just did a very, very long reread of some of my favorite things, and it's been awesome, but it's not that great for making videos. So I combined it with May, and hopefully it's still entertaining enough and not too long. I think I will mostly be doing vlogs right now because, as you saw, my last video was Winternight 2. I still have to do Winternight 3. I was playing around with finishing Ruin and Rising because I stopped doing that last year. And I have the 3rd Star Wars book to read, which is also a series of vlogs that I did. So yes, a lot of vlogs and like a regular vlog. But aside from that, let me know how you've been. Let's get into the wrap up. We're gonna start with this because this is what I read first in April. Anyway, it was my birthday, and coincidentally I just did not upload that month. It was my birthday, and I decided I would do a complete bungo reread because I read all the books but very randomly throughout the year as I bought them or found them online. So this time for my birthday I was gonna read the books exactly where they fit plot-wise in between the different seasons and movies. So I read books 1, 2, 3, 4, and 7, 8, 9 exactly where they went chronologically. And that was, I'm not going to dwell because I've already talked about each book individually, but the whole story fit together a bit differently when I did it like this, and I was a bit more emotionally distraught. So I would recommend reading it like this, but if it's something you like, it might hurt exponentially more if you do it like this. To revise, I did not read and will never again read book 6, so that's why I didn't mention it. And book 5 I read in May. And I actually read it for the first time, so I'm not going to mention that one here. So this is what happened in April. I think, yeah, I read book 9 last. That was on the 19th. And I started on my birthday, which was the 6th. So pretty much a month-long reread. Next up, we have the one new book I think I read in April, which was Cloak of Deception. I'm pretty sure I actually finished this one in April. I'm not sure if I started it in April, but basically this is like, there was a bunch of books that just kept getting released before the next Star Wars movie was released, and it adds just so much to everything. It fills in so many blanks, but I mean, this one's a prequel, so maybe not this one, but in general, the Star Wars books fill in a lot of the blanks back then. Cloak of Deception is basically Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan and what they were up to when, right before Phantom Menace, because Chancellor Valorum was almost assassinated, and then a lot of stuff keeps happening after that. I think it was a bit boring at parts because obviously it's not all Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but as usual, the Star Wars books are very dear to me because I read them for a specific reason. So considering that this was a lot of the Jedi and Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, I loved the book itself, but not all of it was a masterpiece, as I'm pretty sure none of the books that aren't the main ones are, because there's always side characters you don't care about. So same as Kenobi last year, I think this is a worthwhile read if you're really into the prequel era, because every book so far I've read from that era really enhances your experience, but I do not think it's that necessary. I really don't think it's that necessary. I will say one thing that's very interesting. You get a lot of Palpatine's point of view, but written in a way that you don't know that he's Sidious. Like, we all knew he was Sidious even back then, because like the actor was the same. It doesn't take a genius to connect the dots. His voice is the same. But this is written in a way where you think Palpatine's like the good guy, the well-meaning politician. It's not written from Sidious's point of view, so I found that a little interesting, considering we all knew, like, Revenge of the Sith hadn't come out yet, but we all know that it's going to be the Emperor and Vader, so it's not that big of a spoiler. Up to May, there is a lot of manga in May, like a lot. Some new, some a reread, because I find that graphic novels and manga, although they take up a lot of time because there's usually a lot of them, so easy to read. So easy to read. Like, I'm someone who likes books that are 1,000 pages long, but I just cannot force myself to read a book that's 1,000 pages if I keep having to do something, because I feel like I'm being interrupted. So we started this month off by finishing Six of Crows. Actually, I reread it when I was like driving to and from university. Actually, a very quick reread. I was in the mood because I rewatched some of the clips from the show, but I don't have thoughts that are much different than last time. I will say that I feel like I enjoyed it more because I came in knowing exactly what happens and exactly why I will not be reading book 2 ever again. So I feel like I enjoyed book 1 for what it is a bit more. But I also felt like it was a bit more juvenile than I remember. Like, at some points, they genuinely do feel like teenagers, but then they keep getting into situations and reacting in a way that adults do. So that's very, very, very jarring, because one minute I feel like Kaz is being mopey about Inej, and then another minute he's ripping someone's eye out. So that shift was a bit irritating to me. But I will say, to be very fair, enjoyed it a lot more than the first time, but I will never, ever read the second book again. And I have to make my point again. Nina and Matthias are my favorite part of this crew. And if they weren't there, if their story and relationship wasn't there, I'm pretty sure I would find this book a lot more boring than I actually do. And it is precisely because they are my favorites that I will not be reading book 2 ever. I will do this a little out of order because I'm going to have a lot more to say for some other stuff. Bungo Novel 8. That's the one that I read for the first time because I bought it for the first time. I couldn't find it online because, to get into the crux of the matter, it's not necessary. It's cool. There are some nice descriptions, but there's a problem with novelizations when something's original content not made by the author. And that is that they're scared to do stuff. I noticed that in the Tokyo Ghoul books too. Like, they are supervised by the actual authors, but you can tell that they're just a little bit restrained. Like, they're holding back. They're not really gonna add much to the movie. But since the movie was original and not Kafka's, then the book couldn't really do much else because it's just adapting that. So I don't think it was necessary. There was some cool stuff that I can't remember right now, and I'm not sorry that I have it. I think it was very fun. But a lot of the time I was just flipping through the pages like, okay, this is literally just describing the movie. Like, the beauty of these light novels, even though a lot of them have been adapted through the show, is that they are a lot better than the show because it was actually written first and it adds a lot of context. This adds almost nothing. I was hoping there would be some stuff about Fyodor, and there is a scene that, like, it helps my understanding of this already incomprehensible movie anyway. There's some stuff that explains it a little better, but I still think it really wasn't necessary. And you can tell that the author just offered his opinion. He didn't really do much with it. But again, since this is original work, I'm okay with it. I just wish they maybe let him adapt it, because, like, the movie was already theirs. I think it would have been cool if Kafka was actually the one to write the novel, because I know he would have added stuff. Next up, we have The Book of Dragons. Now, I didn't really finish this because it's been on hold for months. That's why I didn't even rate it on Goodreads. But I read a couple more stories didn't love some, enjoyed one of them. Didn't complete this entire thing. I read the poetry. I really enjoyed the poetry. As I said before, the main problem with this book is that they all have a stupid concept of dragons. Like, this is a book of dragons. The cover is stunning. I do not want to read about dragons in modern day settings. I don't want to read about dragons being people. I don't want to read about dragons being a metaphor for, I don't know, a lawsuit. I'm exaggerating, but didn't finish this entire thing, but I'm not completely writing it off. Maybe one day I'll give it another shot. I read enough to know that I'm not in the mood for it right now, so I put it back on the shelf. I will not be saying anything else about it. It's pretty disappointing, but I didn't read all of it, so I can't really judge. I was a bit emboldened, actually, to keep it by the fact that I liked the poetry and I read the one book that I sort of enjoyed. But a lot of it is actually written by very famous authors, so it's very disappointing that it's so lame in a way. Like, there's something by Scott Lynch and R.F. Kuang and stuff like that. It's not that I love either of them a lot. Like, Scott Lynch was fine. I will never read R.F. Kuang's books, but they are still very big names, so I was kind of hoping that actually brings something to the table. Next up, we have this entire series, or rather the rest of it. I think I read like volumes 15 or 16 to the end. I don't have a lot of thoughts for it. For me, it's, I don't want to use the word because I know it triggers a lot of people, but mid. Very mid. I didn't hate it. I can't say that I hated it, but I also thought it was fine. Nothing really evoked feelings. I didn't care about anyone's fates. That's a lie. I kind of did like, I don't even know their names, the two Hashiras that are in love, like the love one and the other one. I kind of enjoyed their story, but the whole thing just felt rushed and a little bit boring. Like, it didn't feel like there was that much plot. I feel like this is an animator's dream, so it's very good that the animation is great for this show. But I feel like story-wise, there's not much. There's not much. All of the backstories are told to you, and then you're expected to care about them, because most of what they do is fight, and then you have like a couple breaks where they just crack jokes. So it's a little jarring, and not to mention that they give more backstories to the demons. So like every time one demon died and we got to see their entire story, I actually cared more about the demons than the demon slayers, which I don't think was the point. Like when Akaza in particular is dying, I very much felt for him, and I would have liked to read that story and stuff about him. Definitely not this. Yeah, in conclusion, I care about all of the demons more than the main characters, except for maybe like Muzan, because I feel like he's very boring. He's very boring as a villain. He's very boring as a character. Like, he's very powerful, and they defeated him like victory, but I can't say I felt like it was that impactful because he was a little one-dimensional. I get what he wanted to do, but it's not that interesting. So I am a little apprehensive trash talking this because I know this is like Jujutsu Kaisen level in the last couple of years, and I enjoyed the anime. I can't wait for the next season because I think the animation is great, and something like this is perfect for an entertaining show. But as a story, it just has nothing to offer to me. I know a lot of people like the characters, but I have to say I do not understand that in the slightest, because I will say to you, what characters? Literally, what characters? There are more fight scenes than there are actual relationship building interactions between them. Even the couple that I enjoyed were kind of told to me that they are so in love, so I was sort of thrown into an already done situation, if you know what I mean. And the ending was so cheesy. Like, I heard that the author of this was sick, so she rushed it, which again, I definitely respect more than never finishing it. But also you can tell Like, you can really tell that it was rushed. So I don't know if I really have anything else to say. It was just underwhelming. I didn't hate it. I have to, like, make that point. I did not hate it, and I can't wait for the show. But I honestly do wish I didn't read it. I could have just waited for the show. All right, next up, I mean, I'm not going to talk too much about it because there's an entire vlog, but I read Girl in the Tower. All of the thoughts are in the vlog, so we're just gonna keep going. But I also logged Choujin X Volume 3 because I think that's up to like chapter 20 maybe, and chapter 22 is the latest one out. I keep reading this every month because I mean it's Sui Ishida, but I know it's gonna take them like years and years to actually translate these. That's a little depressing because I would like to support him, but there's not much point in me getting a Japanese a Japanese volume just to support him. I mean, that would be kind of money wasted. Second to last, the Death Note short stories. I know I've read most of these before, but they actually compiled it in an English volume that I think came out already, but also the release date is like in June, so it's very confusing. I pre-ordered this after one of my exams and it got here in May. I vastly enjoyed it. I thought it was going to be a book, to be honest, but it's just a collection of manga snippets. There's like 2 sequel stories. Both of them feel like fan fiction, to be fair, even though it was done by the original creators, but I read both of those before. There's like short snippets. There's gag comics, I think, from when the manga was actually coming out. I love those at the end of every manga where it's like characters but in ridiculous situations that's not canon. I really enjoy that. What else was in this? Some sketches, I think. There's like Elle's daily routine, which was freaking hilarious. So yeah, I didn't rate this because I read most of it before, and I'm not really even sure how to rate this because it's not a story as a whole. But I really enjoyed it, and I think if you like Death Note, and it's been a while since you've bought anything Death Note that's new, because I think this is the first edition in English, buy it because it's great. I'm not sorry that I bought it. I enjoyed it quite a bit, and I wish there was more comedy Death Note, honestly, because there's such potential with these characters to just make them absolutely ridiculous. A reread, but I reread all of Noragami in May, actually a couple of days ago to be very exact. But this is a tangent, but I've been hunting down the Tokyo Ghoul box set. So if you know any place that I might get it, hit me up. But I've been hunting that because I really want it, because it's been almost a year since I bought the second one and I need the first one, but it's impossible to find. So I wanted to read Tokyo Ghoul, and when I couldn't, there was a whole mess. I decided, okay, you know what? I've almost collected all of the Noragami volumes. Let's reread Noragami physically. Like, I need a reread because I'm going insane. So I did. I don't have the first 6 because the omnibus editions are coming out in the fall, so I will get those. But I watched the anime, stopped exactly where volume 7 begins, and then I read the rest of it and watched the rest of the show. I am missing volume 13. It should get here next week, but that's fine. I just read those 4 chapters online, and they've actually caught up pretty well. Like, volume 24 is coming out in July, and volume 25, which goes up to chapter 99, which is the last one that came out, comes out in, next year, at the beginning of next year. So they've actually pretty much caught up with the releases. But I love this manga so much. It's not going to be my favorite because Tokyo Ghoul, I think, will always be my favorite manga. But Noragami is just so unique in that it's very, very entertaining, very pretty, but also you kind of care about all of the characters. Now, one character aside, because I don't feel like spoiling the very end of the current release, but you do grow to care for a lot of the characters. Like, for example, Takemi Kazuchi and Kiyun, they are introduced properly, I think, in like volume 16. They become characters like in volume 17 and then onwards, which is pretty late. But they own my heart and soul. Every time that either of them shows up, I am so happy because I love their interactions and their personalities and how dramatic they both are, but in very different ways. I love them, which is not to say that Hiyori and Yata aren't still the absolute perfection that they are. But Takamikaze and Kiun are probably my favorites. Same as last time, just a bit more. This was my second reread. It was my third rewatch of the show. And again, more than before, I would actually recommend it to everyone because I read it properly this time. Every time I read it online, it's like very rushed. But this time I just sat down with the volumes, and I think it took me 3 days to read all 25 minus 7. All 17. 18. Yeah, 18. All right. Yeah, math is not mathing while I am on break from studying. But yeah, all 18 volumes. It took me 3 days to read them. Absolutely loved them. And those women draw so beautifully that it kind of impresses me again and again when I come upon a panel that looks like a masterpiece. And they have to do this every month, which, speaking of, in June, it's chapter 100, which is why I think they didn't upload in May. But I can't wait because I think it's coming to an end, and that's wild because I have no idea how they're going to finish it. To kind of wrap up the video, I wanted to say that I'm currently reading a new book, Inkheart. Not a new book, but I've never read it. So I'm reading Inkheart, and I'm finishing rather, like 5 rereads, so I will not even get into that, but I'm very close to finishing Anne of the Island. Now, that being said, chapter 101 of Bungo, the manga. I know everyone was freaking out over it. If you've read it, you know why. I won't spoil it. Like, I don't really keep myself from spoilers because if it's old, it's not my problem that you haven't read it. But if something came out like within the year, I think it's kind of rude to just come right out and say it. So no, I won't be spoiling the chapter. I just, if anyone's read it, wanted to say a few words. And that is that manga went to hell right about where the show ends. Everything after that is just bullshit, and I say that as a person who's pretty much the #1 fan of this. But lately it's been getting somewhat interesting, and I think if Kafka sticks with what he did in the last chapter, I might actually like it a lot. Which is controversial because I know some fans with no critical thinking are pretty upset. But I think it would make a lot of sense if it was just maybe polished a little bit, if it wasn't so abrupt what actually happened. But it's taking an interesting direction, and I am still hoping that it's going to end soon because I've had enough. I've had enough of this. I just hope he goes back to doing the books. But yeah, the last chapter was interesting because I think if he sticks to his guns, he did a very bold decision that I think I will respect a lot if it's actually true. That is it for the video. I know it was pretty long and maybe a little boring. It's been a while since I've actually articulated my thoughts. I never articulate my thoughts in vlogs, so this is kind of the only outlet, but I'm gonna try and do a couple short videos here and there during exam season because I'm not gonna be studying 24/7. No one really does that for a reason. But plus, I mean, I hate studying, so why on earth would I want to do that to myself? But I was thinking of doing a writing vlog because for the next couple of days, maybe 3 or 4, I am going to be writing because I want to finish my first draft. So maybe I will do a writing vlog where I like talk about the arcs and how the ending's coming along and some of the writing thoughts that I have. So if you would be interested in that, do let me know. otherwise, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you read for the past couple of months, what the weather's like where you live, because here it's pretty much atrocious. But yeah, that's it. I'm rambling. I've gotten very, very weird.